Welcome to the Daniel Fast Cookbook pre-sale case study. I'm excited that you are here and I am looking forward to sharing these results with you. So let's dig in. And whether you're watching live or you're watching this on the recording on the replay, let me know, have you done a pre-sale before and why or why not? And so you can drop that in the comments wherever you're viewing this from. And that just lets me know where people are and where we're going to go. Okay, so if you have done pre-sales before, okay, Sarah said that she has not because she just wasn't sure how. And okay, Jennifer said that she is hesitant. Okay, that's totally normal. So we'll talk about that further as well. All right, so I am Ashley and I'm the owner of Chef Publishing House, and I'll let you know a little bit more about me. And so I'm a wife of almost 10 years, a mom of two, and as of last June, a full-time entrepreneur, and I'll tell you the details on that. And then I'm the owner of Chef Publishing House, where we help authors get from the page to the people with efficient and effective marketing strategies so they can get paid to publish. And then also I'm the owner of Chef Ashley Shep, which helps busy moms get dinner done faster with quick, healthy, and tasty meals. And so here are some places I've been featured. And so Medium, Voyage ATL, Disney, yes, the actual Disney, and then also on the YouVersion Bible app, and I'll talk about that as well. So who is this training for? This case study is for those who want to get paid to publish as self-published authors, and often it's said that only traditionally published authors are able to get paid for their work in advance, and I'm here to let you know that that's not entirely accurate. You can get paid to publish as a self-published author. And so if you're someone who wants to make money before your book is out, publishing costs can be a little bit of a deterrent when you're looking at publishing and also marketing. And so being able to cover those costs ahead of time is perfect to be able to get that out of your way. And if you're someone who doesn't want to wait on Amazon to pay you 2 months later, if you are an author and you're on KDP, Amazon KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, you're aware that they actually have a longer timeline to account for returns. And so just because you make a sale today, you will not see that money until months later. And so with pre-sales, you can skip that and get your money sooner. If you're looking for a boost or increasing your social media engagement, then pre-sales are a great way to help with that as a part of a book launch. And then if you are committed to customer service and will follow through. And so if that is not you, this is who this training is not for. If you're someone who doesn't keep their word, you are not planning to finish your book, or you're going to let other things stop you from finishing your book, and if you're someone who doesn't really want to communicate with your customers and you want to kind of keep them in the dark, you're going to ghost them, this is not the training for you. We are definitely going to focus on ways to keep your audience at top of mind and keep them aware of what's going on during your book launch and pre-sale. And so if you are also closed-minded about the possibilities of pre-sales, then you probably want to stop watching. So hopefully you're still here. And of course, legal have to go over this. Results may vary, your mileage may vary. I am not a lawyer. However, I am required to say things like this because we want to make sure that you understand that these are results from myself and my clients that have done pre-sales. However, there are conditions and things of that sort that make it so that we cannot guarantee that you will have the same exact results. However, if you follow the steps and the processes, then there is definitely a possibility that you may have the same results. All right, so let's dig in. So this is for my most recent release, the Daniel Fast Meals Cookbook, and we are going to be going over the following things in our slides over my system that I use. And so this will start off with a background and my goals for the pre-sale. We'll talk about strategies that I used, software and resources. People always want to know what tools, what tech tools, things like that. And then I'll also share my success as well as a special offer for you at the end. So I have a teaching background, I have an education background, master's of curriculum instruction. So we're going to get a little old school and give you some definitions of words to know before we begin. And so the first one, of course, is pre-sale, and that is the act of selling something before it's completed or before it's out. In my case, for these purposes, I'm going to be saying that my pre-sale was in the timeline of where I was selling the book before it was available for purchase on Amazon for someone to just buy on Amazon. And then a launch is a series of steps or a process of letting people know about your product or service over time. And so sometimes that's confused with release, when really a release is more so just like, oh, hey y'all, I got a book out. And then that's all you ever do to talk about it. Those are totally different things, and sometimes they're used interchangeably. And a launch is very systematic, and there's specific steps that you do in order to get those results. And then finally, publishing. And so this might seem kind of like a word that might not need to be included, but some people get confused about what the actual publishing process is. And it's simply, if you're using Amazon, the process of uploading it to Amazon for it to be printed out in a physical book form, or if you're using another site, then it's the process of uploading that so that it can be printed as well. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that there's a difference between a launch and a pre-sale and a release. So, your book launch is that longer period where you are doing certain things like letting your audience know that your book is coming out. You might be getting featured different places, things of that sort. And then there's a small portion within that where you might open up a pre-sale. And so before your pre-sale, you generally want to let your audience know that something's coming, my book is coming out, I'm in the process of writing my book, it's going to be released soon, be on the lookout so that you can get notified when it comes out. And then you open the pre-sale, and then you have a close date on the pre-sale so that your actual regular release of the book can happen on the back end. And so for me, here's a little bit of background, and there's a purpose to the story, so go with me. Before my book was released, and the book that I'm mentioning is the Daniel Fast Meals Cookbook. And so for me, this was released in January 2024. So going backwards a bit, back to March 2023, before the book was released, I was working in an education space at a school and found out while 8 months pregnant that my contract would not be renewed for the following school year. And at that point, I was 8 months pregnant. And so I was given the opportunity to re-interview, reapply for the same position with a little bit more work and a $15,000 pay cut. At the same time, my son was thought to have a heart condition, and I had to do twice weekly testing. They also thought that he had something called an omphalocele, where essentially your organs are not growing properly inside the abdominal wall in your stomach. And so there was something in his umbilical cord. They didn't know what it was. And at that point, I was a geriatric pregnancy. And so anything over 35 in the US. And so going to twice weekly appointments, being stressed out at work, as well as a toxic work environment. And then come May, I have the baby. And at the same time, I was also battling trying to not have a repeat C-section because I knew that there was a good chance that my son would have to have surgery as well to correct whatever was happening with his umbilical cord. So I don't want both of us to have surgery. And so after that, he's born in May. We were able to avoid the repeat C-section, praise God. And then also he had a short NICU stay. So all of these things are happening, and I'm in a valley in life at that point. You know, you have mountains and valleys, and it's okay, why me, God? Like, why is all this happening at the same time? And so through that, my last day of work was June 30th, 2023. And then even after that, continued to have a battle with trying to get insurance to cover certain things, to cover his NICU stay, and having to stress about having a newborn and trying to get paid because, you know, if you're on maternity leave, they don't always pay you the same amount you were supposed to be paid and things of that sort. And so I say all that to say, and it'll come up in a moment when I dig deeper into the process, that was what was happening before the book came out. And so if you're going through a season or something of that sort where you have a challenge and you are working towards getting your book completed, just know that that can also be used for God's glory and then also for the purposes of being able to tell your story for your book launch. So Further background, I also have a devotional that's a 21-day devotional that was released in 2020. And before the pre-sale opened, before my cookbook came out, that book had sold 3,600 copies. So from December 2020 to the to like November, early November 2023. And that was in ebook, paperback, and hardcover. As well, I created a modified version of that devotional in, and made it into a 6-day plan on the YouVersion Bible app. And so I'll talk about that strategy and how I used it to be able to increase my email list as well as to direct people to purchase the cookbook. Okay, then to give reference and to give some more background on how I got to do pre-sales and why I'm so excited about them is because for each of the books that I've released, I've done a pre-sale for. And so my first book back in the summer of 2020 was New Mom Thoughts, Real Questions for Moms with Real Feelings. And a this is a guided journal for moms. And so with this pre-sale, I had a 9-month-old at that point. I was starting a new job and it was the height of the pandemic. So newly working from home, things of that sort. And so this was a 6-week pre-sale and I used social media to publicize this, as well as some other strategies, and then also, which I'll go into those strategies. I used a book bundle for that, and it was $27, and this resulted in $1,400 in 6 weeks for that pre-sale. Then the next pre-sale was for that devotional that I was mentioning, and it was December 2020, so just a few months after my first book. And this timeline was just 1 to 2 weeks long. It was after Christmas. Because of the topic of the book, most people around the world do the Daniel Fast in January. And so the timeline that I was able to finish the book was in December, and so it was a very quick, short launch. And I was able to do $800 in about 1 to 2 weeks with this using that same strategy of bundling and sharing on social media. Now, I do want to share a secret. You might have already noticed it, but I'm a huge fan of book bundles. And so this is one of my chef secrets. And here on the left, you'll see the bundle from the Mom Journal. And it included, so it was it's a keepsake journal. So it included a pen for the mom to write in, a note card, stickers, decorative tape, paper clips, and a few other little items. And then also I autographed those books as well as included a cooking class for new moms, because when you're a new mom, sometimes it's difficult to know or not know to be able to have the time to feed your family. And so because this was under my food business, I was able to share strategies to cook faster when you have little time with little ones. Then same concept, but with the second book, that bundle was an all digital version of the bundle because the timeline was so short and I needed to be able to get it out to people so that they could actually have it for their Daniel Fast. I included a digital copy of the book, so a PDF copy for people to have immediate access to, and then also a pen, and then, well, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was going to include a pen and then decided not to, but this is the original bundle that I was going to include. And then I included a 3-week live meetup for folks that were doing the fast. So we met weekly to be able to discuss certain things. And then also they got access to a course version of the book and a Facebook group to support them. Now, so from both of these pre-sales, one key takeaway is that my publishing costs were able to be covered by those pre-sales. And that includes things like hiring the contractors, such as your cover designer, formatter, things like that. Now, for this pre-sale, fast forward 3 to 4 years later, 3 years later, so I had built somewhat of an email list. Most of my audience was on Facebook, and then I also had connected with churches and organizations who had me speak virtually with them. And so for this book launch, for Back to the Cookbook, I focused on using Facebook because for my audience, most of them were pretty active on Facebook, and used professional mode. So on Facebook at the time of this recording, because y'all know social media changes a lot, they have an option where you can use professional mode, which means that people can follow you without necessarily friending you. And you can also see statistics and stats and analytics on your account. So that way you're able to be able to operate like a Facebook business page, but you're a personal page, and they call it professional mode. So this gives you the option to see things like being able to schedule out posts, to see which posts people are responding to well, and to get analytics, as well as to monetize your page, meaning to be able to make money off of your social media page. And so in addition, I'm also a moderator in 3 Daniel Fast Facebook groups. So these are specific to the topic of my book, and I'm able to provide value to them in the group, whether it's recipes or strategies or scriptures that are all tied to my book. Then I also have 2 Facebook groups. One is specific to the Daniel Fast, one is in general about food, and these are under my Chef Ashla Chef business that I have. And so another reason why I chose Facebook is because it's relatively easy to post on, and the visibility that you can get is at the time was pretty good. And so it was a lower lift for me. And then I reposted on other platforms such as Instagram, on both the Chef Ashla Chef Instagram and the Chef Publishing House Instagram, where it was applicable. And so because I have those 2 businesses, I was able to apply the strategies and show people on my publishing Instagram and Facebook page that these are strategies that I'm using in a live book launch. And then when I would post on the food social media page, it might be, oh, check out this recipe for the Daniel Fast, or take a look at this cooking demonstration I did, things of that sort. And so at the time, I wasn't focused on Instagram because if you are on Instagram, you know that they change things literally every week. And so I didn't have the bandwidth, and also my audience was not as hyper focused on that platform. And so it made sense to put that a little bit on the back burner. So I still posted things there to be able to have the grid view of items if I needed to quickly go and find something. But it wasn't something that was a major focus for me as far as where to post. Now, for the purposes of this case study, I will be talking about just the pre-sale part. So for me, my pre-sale was 12 weeks. It started on November 25th and ended on February 16th. And so the income and the results that I'll be sharing does not include sales that began or the sales that happened after those books started to ship. And so also at the same time, it does include statistics and information from my matching devotional, because at the time, as I was advertising it, I was using both books to play off of each other. And so it's something where it was closely related. Okay, so a few considerations. This time around, I had to be even more strategic about my time as a mom of 2 kids instead of 1 kid when I did my first 2 pre-sales. And this was also my first pre-sale where I did a offset bulk print order. And so if you're not familiar with that, when you publish your book, you might publish it on Amazon KDP, which is a site where Amazon prints and ships the book for you. Or you might do it on Ingram Spark, same concept, but they work with bookstores and libraries. Or you could do something that's called bulk offset printing. And this gives you the best price per book. However, it can be more expensive because you're having to pay for hundreds or thousands of copies of your book at a time. And so doing a pre-sale fit perfectly with that, because then I was able to be able to consider how to use the funds to pay for the bulk book order. So that way I wasn't coming out of pocket as much as I would be had I not gotten those pre-sales. And so if you're interested in bulk book orders, that is something that's the tongue twister, bulk book order. That is something that my company offers, that we facilitate that process for you, as it is different than the route that most self-published authors go through Amazon or through Ingram Spark. And so some disadvantages of this time around with this pre-sale was that I had less time and energy. I started my launch when my littlest one was 5 to 8 months old. So I was 5 to 8 months postpartum, meaning I was not sleeping through the night. I was also nursing, and so I didn't have as much time as my previous launch. And when my oldest son was 9 months old, and then a year old for my first two pre-sales. Advantages that I did have is that I wasn't working full time for the majority of the pre-sale, but at the same time, I was a stay-at-home mom to a very active little one, and so kind of an equal trade-off. And then, well, could be worse in some ways, but either way, I had a little one that I had at home, and so I used pockets of time while the baby was sleeping instead of what I was able to do the first time. And another advantage is this wasn't my first pre-sale, so I was able to use the templates that I've created and that I use with my clients that I do done for you marketing for as a resource instead of trying to figure everything out from scratch. So my goals for this pre-sale was to complete my first offset print order, not using Amazon KDP. And then I wanted to be able to cover the cost of that so that way I wasn't coming out of pocket. And after having just lost a job, and so very important to be able to cover those costs. And then I wanted to also use the book launch for a case study for Shep Publishing House, which is what you're watching now. So I can check that goal off. And I also wanted to be able to collaborate with organizations and churches as I had done previously with my devotional, but this time bringing them into the cookbook side of things to purchase bulk orders with them. And then I generally tell my clients to make SMART goals. However, sometimes you just have goals that are just ones that you just want to get that are not tangible. They're not necessarily as easily measurable, but it's just, when you know, you know. And so for me, after coming off of a job loss, having a roller coaster experience with having to advocate for myself to avoid a repeat C-section, it was just really important to me to be able to prove to myself that I still got it. And if you're a mom or have kids, then you understand that sometimes you can lose a little bit of yourself in that process. And so this was my time of like, okay, if I can make this pre-sale work, then this proves that no matter what, um, that I still got it. And so I also wanted to generate leads, meaning I wanted to bring in new people into my both businesses, and then also to create a buzz around my book and generate revenue. So above and beyond the cost of the offset print. So throughout this training, I'll also be highlighting some of the clients that I've helped to do pre-sales for themselves as well. And so this is my client, Tashawn Creswell. She was a publishing, coaching, and marketing client. And she was able to do a pre-sale book bundle, hosted a book launch party, which had 70 attendees, and she did over $2,800 in pre-sales. And some of the strategies that she used is that she went live to talk about her book on social media, such as book unboxings. She also promoted her book on social media, letting folks know, hey, my book is about to come out, sharing it with family and friends, and then also followed up with local promo opportunities. And she was actually featured on the local news as well. So for my clients, I use my proprietary system called the Profitable Publishing Pentagon, and another tongue twister. And so this is a system that I've created, and and it includes things that are going to help myself, because I use these same strategies, and my clients be able to have the best opportunities for their book launch to publish profitably. And of course, profit is not always the goal when you're publishing. However, even if you're someone who wants to have a lot of reach and a lot of authority, or you're someone who wants to be able to have impact for people, you can't do that if you're not selling the book that you've written, or if people are not reading the book that you've written. And so throughout this training, I'll share different steps that are within this system that I use to make high four figures in this book launch. As well, I have a gift for you. This is absolutely free. And so this is my pre-sale timeline cheat sheet. Often when people are doing pre-sales, they ask, okay, well, how do I know when I need to open my pre-sale? How do I know when I need to turn off my pre-sale? How long do I have to promote? When should I order my author copies? When can I ship my items? And so if that's a question that you have, go ahead and use your smartphone's QR or smartphone's camera to be able to scan this QR code, and it will take you right to this cheat sheet, and it will help you to be able to plan out your pre-sale, because it's really easy to be unsure of these things if you've never done a pre-sale before. And so I wanted to make it something where it was easy to follow and also attainable for you to be able to use to plan out your pre-sale. Okay, and so this is the same QR code on the screen. And so those same questions: how big of an audience size do I need? Do I need to already have my editing done? These are questions that I find that most of my clients, or people who are potential clients or just followers, generally have when it comes to mapping out their pre-sale. So I wanted to put all of that in one space for you to be able to have it. And throughout this training, I will include other examples that you can use. So be sure to keep your phone handy to be able to scan the codes to get those items. In this section, we'll be talking about the strategy of book launching. And so, a book launch is a clear, defined step to get the word out about your book and its release to help you create raving fans that are happy to support your book. And this strategy comes from my Profitable Publishing Pentagon. And so, I will actually map out this in my cookbook pre-sale so that way you can see those steps and give you my timeline so you'll know exactly how I went about this. But first, I want to share and shout out one of my clients. Her name is Veronica Moore, and her book is Rosie's Special Gift. And so Veronica used this strategy exquisitely to be able to make almost $10,000 in pre-orders on her first book. Shout out to Veronica. And so she was very strategic about her book launch steps, making sure that her audience was aware on social media. She also did collaborations and was very sure to follow those strategies and steps that I will be teaching you in just a moment. So, congrats, Veronica. All right, so now this is the timeline of events that I used for my Daniel Fast Cookbook pre-sale. And so the pre-sale started in November, but for purposes of showing you the bigger picture, this includes the entire book launch. So that way you're aware of each of those steps. Remember, like we talked about in the previous section of this case study, the pre-sale is the smaller portion of where your cart is open, meaning people can purchase the book to be able to buy it. So let's get started. All right. On October 12th, 2023, that's when I actually got a bulk book order for my devotional, which came out in 2020. And so this was something that kind of kickstarted the pre-sale because I was able to share that on social media and let people know, hey, Daniel Fast season is coming. If you have a church that is doing the Daniel Fast, then please consider getting a copy of my book. Then, a few days later, I decided to survey people that were in the Daniel Fast groups that I'm a moderator in, as well as my own groups, and ask them their thoughts on whether they would prefer metric measurements in cookbooks. Now, I'm in the United States and we use Imperial, so things like gallons, teaspoons, things like that. However, the majority of the world uses metric. And so, because I know from my devotional that people are international, the people that purchase my devotional live all over the world. I've gotten orders from Uganda, Australia, India, places in Europe. And so I wanted to be accessible to my customers. And so I I asked them what they would prefer. And so this is already starting to kind of tease things out so people can say, okay, something's coming. What is she working on? It's something with food. Then on the 17th of October, I asked on my Facebook page, my professional mode Facebook page, which cookbook binding do you prefer? And so notice this got about 59 responses. And so at this time, I was debating between offering spiral, hardcover, or paperback of my cookbook. And so this helped to also generate a buzz. And then later, once the cookbook was available, I did go back and add the website link for them to purchase. But that was not there in the original post. Then, about a month later, I made the announcement that my manuscript was sent to the editor. And so, this is another step to build a buzz to let people know, hey, I'm working on this, it's happening. I officially sent my cookbook manuscript to the editor today. I don't always stop to celebrate, but today I will. And so, same thing, 150 comments, and almost 300 likes. And so this is something where it's an easy way to let people be involved with the process without telling them too much, but also letting them know, hey, I'm working on something and I'd love your support. Okay, then pre-sales officially opened for my email list on Black Friday and also inside my Facebook group. So it's always important to prioritize the people who have been rocking with you for the longest. I always think that's nice to do. And so when I'm doing something, I let them know first. At the same time, it was Black Friday, and I said, okay, I need to also let other people know that it is available. And so I did the Facebook group and then also my email interest list, which I'll explain in a bit. And then in general, I let people know the pre-sales were available. So this was the post that I used to do that. And so it's just informing them pre-sales are open for the cookbook, and there's two options. They can get the bundle or they can get just the book. And on the right side, this was a screen recording of me going through the sales page so they could see what was on it. Next, on December 8th, I did a live video that was multicast, multi-streamed to multiple places to share about the publishing steps. And so you'll notice that I have screen shares of the different photos that appeared or that would appear in the cookbook. And I did that so that people can actually see what's to be expected. And because I didn't have a copy of the book yet, I didn't get copies of the book until almost a month after this. And so this is a way for me to share with my audience and generate sales before I was able to actually have the book in hand. Next, taking another inside look at the book, I shared spreads from it. And so this first one was actually a spread for some stuffed peppers. And the reason why I did that was to show people this is what it's going to look like when you get your copy of the book. And so on the inside, I also showed how I was very specific and particular about how I wanted the cookbook to look so that it was helpful to the reader. And for example, in here, I made sure to point out that the ingredients are bolded. I made sure my formatter was able to do that. So that way it was something that makes it easier when you're cooking. And then also the steps are listed out, because as someone who cooks, it's frustrating if you're trying to make something and you're trying to remember what step was I on and the directions are bulleted instead of numbered. And so that was another point that was important to me too. And then also showing that it's not just a cookbook. There's also tips, tricks, guides, things like that to help you on your cooking journey. And so then a couple days after that, I had people vote on the cover. And so once again, giving priority to my email list of those who were interested in the book, I asked them to vote on a cover. Now, at this point, I already had in mind what cover I wanted. However, I knew that this was a great way to generate engagement and also to let people feel like they're involved in the process. And sometimes there are things where people are able to point things out that you would not have guessed or that you might not have thought about. Okay. And so moving on, then on the 22nd of December, I gave an inside preview. And so this was a screen share of what the book looked like at that formatting step. So my formatter returned the book to me and showed me the digital copy of the book, returned the book to me and showed me where we were at that point. And so I shared it with my audience, let them know that it's not complete. And I just did a screen share of that and then shared that same preview with everyone else, meaning my social media audience and people who were not interested in the book, because these are all things that make people interested in the book once they have a chance to check it out. Then I had my book launch party on my birthday, December 28th, and I'll dig into that in a bit. And so this was a cookbook launch birthday party. And I also chose this date because it was 3 years to the day after my previous book, which is the devotional. And so it ties perfectly together. They're matching, they go together. And then on January 3rd, I did if you all remember the viral trend, like I'm blah, blah, blah. Of course I da, da, da. So if you remember that, drop a 1 in the comments. So I did a version of that with the Daniel Fast. And at that point, I had not really been using TikTok very much. However, over Christmas break, well, over the Christmas holiday, Christmas and New Year's, I found that there was a large audience of people looking for information on the Daniel Fast on TikTok. And TikTok is essentially a search engine. And so at the time of this recording, it was still able to be used in the United States. Lord knows what will happen to it later. But I said, okay, I need to capitalize on this. And I know that people worldwide do the Daniel Fast in January. So I did that video, and then I'll show you stats from that. But within hours, within a few days, it was starting to go viral. And so I reposted that on Facebook and Instagram as well. Then skip the proofs arriving. So the day before that, the proofs arrived. So I was able to do the video to be able to have that. But notice that I still did videos before I had that. I just was able to include the book at that time. Okay, so here's a few screenshots of other TikTok videos I did as well on the topic once I saw that it was doing pretty well. So between a couple hundred to a couple thousand views were happening over on there. And then throughout the rest of the month, I just continued to post on there as well as posting on Facebook, of course. But I noticed that there was an opportunity, and so I wanted to utilize that opportunity to be able to reach out to folks and give them things that they could talk about. And so videos that did particularly well over there was stitching someone else's video. And so this is one where, if you're familiar with the Daniel Fast, or if you're not, it's an adjustment in eating. So you can't have meat, sweets, or added sugar. And so generally when pastors announce that your church is doing the Daniel Fast, the congregation sometimes panics because they're like, well, what am I going to eat? And so this was a video of someone who the audio was like, I can't believe it, Jesus. And so they're like stuffing their face before the fast starts. And so stitching that and then saying, hey, I have ideas for you. And so this one got a little under 3,000 views. And then another one, this one was about 5,000 views. It was giving snack ideas. And so playing around to see which ones did well was helpful because I was able to target to know what kind of other videos to make. Okay. Also, throughout the rest of the month, I'm still, of course, sharing images and recipes in those Facebook groups where I was a moderator and on my main page, as well as Instagram. And then also having cooking demonstrations. And so there were 2 churches that booked me to be able to do a cooking demo with them and be able to share recipes from the cookbook. And they also ordered bulk copies as well. On the 11th of January, the book went live. The ebook version went live on Kindle on Amazon KDP, not the physical copy. Okay. Then on the 25th, I updated the audience to let them know that the books were in the process of printing and the bulk copy of printing. At that point, I had approved my proof. And so they were in the process of being printed. And this was a picture that my printer sent me. And I had enough copies to cover the pre-sale expedited to me because at this point the pre-sale started November 25th, and then I wanted to go ahead and let those people get their copies first because that's the whole point of the pre-sale. You get to get your stuff first. So on the 31st of January, I placed the expedited order. The order shipped. So the order shipped to me as well as the regular order for the non-expedited. So it was shipped through sea for the regular order, and then the expedited one was supposed to be by plane. And so during this timeline, there was a bit of a tussle with FedEx where the books were getting shipped back and forth, and then I was being told that they're in customs, and then my printer's like, they're not in customs. And so for about a week, a little over a week, about 10 days, there were no updates and they were just sitting. And so at that point, a little bit of a panic ensued. However, I was able to keep in touch with the printer, and she was able to keep in touch with FedEx as well. But at that time, Chinese New Year was also approaching. And so praise God that they were able to get out before then, because then at that time, things are kind of stagnant. So, and so the first expedited order arrived on February 12th. And during this time, I'm still updating my audience, letting them know, saying like, okay, the books are in Alaska, they're here, all those things. So then I was able to ship out the first batch of pre-sales on the 14th of Valentine's Day. And then the final carton of books arrived on the 20th of February. Okay, so now we're going to go over some of the steps in detail from this strategy. So this is the launch. So pre-launch, before I opened up my pre-sales, I made sure to have my sales page ready so that I was able to collect those sales. Also offering coupon codes for Black Friday and free shipping at different times where I felt it was appropriate to do. Using those emails to be able to connect with folks, letting them know, hey, something's coming. Are you interested? Click here to be added to the list. And also, these are things that I'm working on. Here's the inside of the book, keeping them looped in because people like to be informed. They don't want to just open up social media one day and say, oh, I released a book, buy my book. That generally doesn't work unless you've been priming your audience, or unless it's your first book. Then there are cases where people will just do that. However, you want to make sure your audience is in the loop. So, of course, those social media posts that I mentioned as well. And then after I got a physical copy of the book, then I did a preview video and added that to the sales page, which increased the purchases because people were able to see that, okay, this is a real thing, and they were able to envision what it would look like. I did weekly live streams, and so these were anywhere from like 20 to 30 minutes, and I'll go into more detail about what those were and the topics. And then I'll also share how the printable ebook version, so the PDF version of the book, how it was actually able to help me generate $360 in 48 hours and then $580 during this timeline, just with the PDF. And also, I'll share how there were codes that I used to track sales for that based upon those Facebook groups that I was a moderator for. And with this, another thing about Amazon KDP, as mentioned before, they have certain regulations that they follow. And so if you are doing the Kindle free ebook version, then your book cannot be available anywhere else in terms of the ebook. The physical copy, yes. So at this point, because this was the PDF, I did this before placing it on sale for Amazon on the ebook version because I wanted to be able to make it free on Amazon. Amazon doesn't like if you have it free here, but then you're charging for it somewhere else. Then additional items that I included for folks who purchased the book or to get them to purchase the book is I emailed out weekly meal plans and grocery shopping lists. So if you purchased the pre-sale, then part of the thing that you got that was a bonus was 3 weeks of meal plans and grocery shopping lists. Now, these were already included in the cookbook. There are pages that are inside of the cookbook. However, what I did is I pulled out those pages from the PDF and made a separate document. And this is a relatively easy way, or this was a relatively easy way for me to provide additional support to the cookbook purchasers as an extra thank you and as a bonus because it wasn't something that I had to pay extra for. It was already in the book. However, instead of having to have the person flip through back and forth to find those things, just having it like, okay, this is week 1. Here's what you need to buy. Here's what the meal plans are for this week, week 2, and so on. And so it's important to find ways to wow your readers and to help them on their journey to make it so they're able to use the book and more likely to leave a great review. And at that point, they didn't have the book yet. So this was even more welcome. They had just a digital copy. And so for those Facebook groups, I was a moderator in, it was actually, so I was previously a moderator in 2 of those groups. And at that time, they had 100,000 people between the 2 of them. Over the course of the Daniel Fast, one of them grew 50,000 people. And so now it's over 150,000 between the 2 of them. And then I reached out to a new group to try to form a collaboration, but that one did not work out. We were not a good fit. And then an additional group that was new that had just started during my pre-sale in December of 2023 when the pre-sale was open, then they blossomed to 30,000 people. And these are all people that are tied to my topic. They are strictly Daniel Fast groups. So these are groups that are full of my ideal potential readers. And so using that and galvanizing that made it so that I was able to get some great results. So here on the right side, we have the hot new release for my book. And this was when it was first coming out during that free promo period that I used the Amazon free option, which I'll go into in a bit. So another strategy that I used to be able to get people to download the free version of the book is to post a recipe or post a picture of something or give them some tips or strategies about the Daniel Fast and then ask them to comment and tell them I'll send them the link for the free version. So asking them, would you try this dish? Or is this something that you've tried before? Things of that sort. And so I would, during that time period, during that 3 to 4 week period during January when people are doing the Daniel Fast, most of the time, or the highest time when people are doing it, then I would post 1 to 2 times a day and partnered with the owners of those groups to be able to send them a digital copy so they could have it, so they could see what I was advertising. And then we worked out something between the different groups. One owner of the group was like, you can post whatever you want to post. This is fabulous. Another one was like, you can only post 5 times about the book, but you can still share recipes and free things. And so it just depended on what the agreement was with that group. And then because it was so many people in those groups, I created what's called a canned response. And so this is a response that you use all the time because people would tag me, they would ask me questions, and these groups had up to 200,000 people across all of them, including my own groups. So in order to stay organized, I had saved responses in my phone. So I'm an iPhone user. Sorry if you're Android. I don't know how to do this on Android, but they probably have an app or a feature. So you can save responses. So basically, if I were to type in certain letters that I pick, so for example, I did DFG, Daniel Fast Group. So if I type in those three letters together, I already have a response saved that will pop up that I can just, that will automatically paste wherever I'm typing. So for example, people would come in the group and say, oh, well, I don't know how to do the Daniel Fast. Can you help me out? So in my canned response, once I typed DFG, it would automatically include things that I had set out for them. So directions for them, Bible references for them, a link to my devotional, a link to the cookbook, a link to the free Bible plan. So that way I'm not spending a ton of time responding to people who are asking the same questions, but I'm still helping them because they have the same question that everybody generally asks. Okay. Also, the on Instagram. So of course I didn't abandon Instagram, but what I did over there instead is I did reach out for a few collaborations. One of them was with Daniel Fast 2024. That's a faceless account, and they just post Daniel Fast stuff. And so I asked them if they would be open to doing a collaboration, and so I sent them an electric copy of the book, and then the owner cooked one of the recipes from the book, and then posted about it and tagged me. And so that was helpful. And then during the pre-sale time period, I met in person Maddie James. She's an influencer on Instagram, and she has a book called Everyday Magic. And so her brand and my brand are aligned in terms of being faith-based and like mom life type things, and entrepreneurs as well. And so we met at a conference, and I saw her post about doing the Daniel Fast, and I said, oh, well, can I send you a copy of my book? And then that way, when you do it next time, you can use it. And so I did. I got the correct information for her to do it, and then she reposted the book as well. And so then I reposted her post. And as I said before, for Instagram, it wasn't my main focus because it requires more work to get to the sale. And because my audience is not on there, the audience that I was working with was not predominantly on there. So I focused on YouTube, Facebook, and then my email list. And so, and TikTok. And so another influencer on TikTok reached out to me and asked if she could do a collaboration. It was her first one. And so same thing, sent her an electronic copy of the book. Figured there's not much to lose. I've got my copyright. She's just trying to grow her audience. And so that was another area as well. And then I also hosted a cooking class during the last week of the fast as well, which I'll talk about also. So next, and bestseller status in the vegan diets. And one thing to note, I don't know if you are aware of this, but Amazon has free bestseller lists and then paid bestseller lists for ebooks. So because you can make your ebook free. So this one was #1 in vegan diets for a couple weeks. Now, other things that were helpful is that I was able to use the strategies that I was using for the pre-sale on my agency page to show authors like yourself or potential authors what they could do. And these things included items such as collaborating with churches. And so Galilee Baptist Church was one that I've worked with before in Maryland, and they ordered 200 copies of the book, the devotional. And then they are set to also order in the future for next year for the cookbook. And then New Beginnings in Buffalo was a new church that I worked with that I found, and they ordered copies of the devotional and the cookbook. And so through those things, I was able to hit 50 pre-sales relatively quickly, and then decided to go ahead and add the ebook onto Amazon on January 19th to be able to use that free strategy to get reviews. And so it was also an opportunity to request reviews from existing cookbook owners who had the electronic copy that I had sent via PDF from my website before I added it onto Amazon. So after I did that, so after the ebook was on after the pre-sale was coming to an end, I needed to remove the pre-sale wording from my website so that it was just regular for sale, and then change the PDF wording to change the bundles that I offered that were on there, so that way people could see what was something that they were receiving that would, like, for example, after Black Friday, after the time period that I had set. And so for the free download strategy, I'll explain to you what it is if you're not familiar with it, you have the opportunity, if you have your ebook on Amazon KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, to make your ebook free. And so you can do it for up to 5 days. And it's an opportunity where people can download it for free and then they can read it in hopes of them leaving reviews. And so that's a strategy that I used from, it was a Wednesday to Sunday, and I shared it through social media posts and email outreach. Okay, so from that, I was able to get 300 ebook downloads in those 5 days. And then from that, 200 ebook downloads were in just 2 days from the free Kindle deal. And at this time, I'm glad that I did, but I almost didn't do it. I almost didn't do the free ebook option because at this point, I had already done a PDF version on my site and made almost $600 from the PDF version, the printable version. And so I thought, oh, okay, I don't know if I want to do this for free on Amazon, even though I tell my clients to do it for free because it makes sense and it helps the algorithm on Amazon know that this is something that people are interested in. And so I myself had those same doubts. I was like, I don't know if I want to do this, but I'm glad that I did. And there were issues with the file that have never happened before, but it kind of delayed things a little bit. And then also something that I didn't realize before, because my previous books were a different file size because it was a cookbook and there were so many pictures, I had to charge more because the way that Amazon decides how much your ebook So after it was free, I had to make sure I charged more because more than I would normally charge for okay, let me slow my brain down. So after the free period, I had to assign a cost to the ebook. And so because of that, I originally was going to make it a little bit cheaper, but ended up having to make it $9.99 or closer to that $9.99 range because Amazon bases it off of your file size. So my previous ebook was not a very large file size because it was a devotional. And so just something to keep in mind that if you have a larger book, if you have a larger book that has a larger file size. So also, of course, researching those keywords and categories and making sure that it's something that people can find organically was something that I did during that process. And sharing on social media and those Facebook groups and encouraging people to grab a copy while it's free is always a great way to make sure that you are that you're optimizing those sales. And by sales, I mean either free downloads or actual sales. And so one tip, if you're going to use this free ebook strategy, is to make sure that people are using the buy now for free button, not the read for free button. And it makes a difference. And so when you do this, it makes it count as a sale if they click the one that's at the bottom. So this buy now for free, which kind of sounds weird, but it's necessary for it to be calculated as a sale. And so for that, this is just me showing an option for people to go ahead and grab it, saying it's free. And this was a strategy that worked very well during this time period for this option. All right, so now we have another client spotlight. This is D.M. Whitaker of Water Rocks Publishing and Branding. And so for her pre-sales, she focused on her Scary Dinosaur and Stinky Skunk series. This is when we worked together to create her book bundles. So that way she was able to package her existing books and her new book that was coming out as a part of the series in a way that enticed people to purchase. And so she used social media marketing, email marketing, and also vending events as well. Now, after the pre-sale was over, there are certain things that I had to do to wrap up that portion. And so, of course, in general, you're always going to be marketing your book and always going to be talking about your book. However, there's certain things that you can do in order to kind of wrap things up with a nice bow. And so I had plans and I had certain things I was going to do. However, I had to cut my pre-sale at that 12-week mark because the day that I shipped out the pre-sale books, after I left the post office, I found out that my grandmother had passed away. And so I just quietly closed the pre-sale about 2 days later and put everything on pause, went to go be with family and things of that sort. And so life happens and that's okay. And so after that, I came back and said, okay, I need to do some ending stats just to kind of celebrate this. And so things that you can do that I did in order to share about your pre-sale or your launch in general is to repost things that people post. And so this is a post that I did, or not I didn't do this. This is a post that I was tagged in. And here, this is from a church where I did a talk about healthy eating. It was a virtual talk about healthy eating, and you have these little smiley faces because they're kids and teens, so they're minors, and so I covered their faces. And this was something where somebody sponsored the books for the kids that attended live, and it's just a way to share, to let people know, like, okay, my book's already out, but I'm still making an impact. I'm still able to reach people, and so it's still something you should consider for yourself. And so then also making sure that I reviewed the stats post pre-sale, not only so that I could do this case study, but just in general to really measure the analytics. And I'll share those in the portion where we have success at the end, and making sure that I am aware of what worked and what didn't work. And so that's what I focused on post pre-sale. Also, I encouraged people who were not just doing the Daniel Fast to purchase the cookbook or to check it out. And so, because it's a book that essentially is a vegan cookbook, then there's people who, even if you're not doing the Daniel Fast but you're a Christian, it's a cookbook that would be beneficial to you. And then now I'm in the process of adding this book onto Amazon Advantage, which is an option if you are looking to do something like I did, such as having Spiral, because Amazon KDP does not offer that, and neither does Ingram Spark. And so, also because of the way that I structured the book, I have coded pages, coded color pages, and those are not available through Amazon, which was another reason at the time of this recording, which was another reason why I decided to do an offset print order, because when you're cooking, I know personally when I'm cooking, my hands get sticky and I have stuff on them, and I didn't want my pages to smudge when people were cooking if their hands were wet. And so it's something where you can add your book to Amazon a different way. And instead of Amazon printing and shipping the book for you, you ship the book and print the book and send it to Amazon, and then they send it to the customer. As well, I'm in the process of circling back about bulk book orders with churches who expressed interest and sent them a copy, an autographed copy of the cookbook. So that way, as they're planning their next Daniel Fast for the top of the year, then they'll keep me top of mind, and I'll follow up through email as well. And then in the process of increasing the testimonials on the listing for Amazon, because of course we know that people love to see that other people have purchased. And so encouraging folks to leave reviews, asking them to leave a review, giving free copies of the book to those who are interested, who are part of an organization that would be aligned as well. And if you are interested in getting bulk book orders for your book, go ahead and scan this code and you can see my video about how to get bulk book orders. And I talk about the process of how I was able to do that for this book as well. And then additionally, I'm working on an audiobook version of the cookbook and the devotional. And if you're not familiar with audio versions, audiobooks are the fastest growing format at the time of this recording. And it's something where it makes your book more accessible to people, because I know myself, like I don't always have time to sit down and read a book, but I'll listen to a book. And people who are learning a new language, it also makes it accessible to them. And so to kick this off, I asked in those same Facebook groups that I'm a moderator in, saying, hey, I'm working on an audiobook version of my cookbook and devotional. Would you be interested in listening to it for free and giving a review? Now, Audible is the platform I'm going to use, or ACX, which goes to Audible, and they have different policies than Amazon KDP. So for the audio versions, you can give free codes, and then they have free codes that you can use, and they understand that you're doing that so that people can leave a review. So they're totally okay with that. And for this, I also created an interest list page for people to sign up. So once these people responded, then I created a page and said, okay, go ahead and sign up here. Now, for the pre-sale, these are the items that I included in the pre-sale so that you're aware of what people were buying. And so I included a book bundle option, which had a hardcover or spiral, so they got to pick. And then for Black Friday, I included a few extra items, such as a cooking class and free shipping. And so that did pretty well. People were excited to get free shipping and the cooking class. And then after Black Friday, whether it was Black Friday or not, they also got these other items here, which are shown here. So these two things are book business cards, and on one side it was the devotional and the other side was the cookbook, and it included descriptions of both of them as well as QR codes for people to be able to scan it to go to the book website to find out information. And so I always like to include things that help your book be shareable with somebody else. And so that's what these two are. And then I included a magnetic bookmark to keep your place, as well as sticky flags so that way they could stick them on recipes that they thought that they would want to try. A Sharpie, I'm sorry, not Sharpie, a permanent marker, and I did a green one because that fits with health and my food brand. And I did a Sharpie because, like I mentioned before, those pages are coded, and so they are going to be something that if you try to use a regular pen, it's going to smudge. And so I wanted them to be able to use the rating system that's in the cookbook that has stars and also a note section on each recipe so they can write inside their cookbook and use it to be able to remember, okay, what do I want to change for next time? What do I want to add? Things like that. Then this was a laminated card that included scriptures on one side to help them during their Daniel fast. And then on the back side, it included steps to get them to share with others about the book. And then this was a faith sticker because the whole point of the Daniel fast is to increase your faith. And then lastly, this was a thank you card, which on this red section, it explained what all of these other items were, so they would know how to use them. And then a code to follow me. On the back, I wrote a very heartfelt message thanking them for purchasing it and supporting me during a time where I was in my valley, and telling them I was climbing out of that valley into the mountaintop. And and also this little paper clip was a cross, and so I wrapped these items up and paper clipped them together. And so that was all in the bundle. But if you just wanted the book, I did have that available as well. Originally, I just offered spiral and hardcover, and then, as I mentioned before, the PDF version was only available up until the point where I added the ebook version onto Amazon. Then lastly, I added the paperback after the pre-sale ended, and that just had to do with what inventory I had when things shipped. In this section, I'll be talking about how I use social media to be able to support my Daniel Fast Meals Cookbook launch. Now, of course, we know social media changes all the time, and so these are some strategies that will help you to be able to support your pre-sale as well. And of course, social media is likely not going anywhere, and so I've included it in my Profitable Publishing Pentagon as a strategy to help build brand awareness, encourage engagement, and utilize the power of community to be able to sell your book. The print run for the Daniel Fast Meals Cookbook is done, and the books are on the way to me. Here is a behind-the-scenes look of the process, and I will definitely be doing this again. It was fun, challenging, and also cost-effective. Follow for more. All right, so that was a video that I posted on TikTok and reposted onto other platforms. And so I just took some snippets from different things I was collecting to be able to make content because people want a behind the scenes look. So this is a good slide to screenshot. This is including different types of things you can post. So screen recordings. So that might look like a screen recording of me flipping through the book or a screen share. When I went live weekly, I would share different items on my screen to let people know, okay, we're in the formatting process, or we just got the book back from the editor, XYZ, and letting them see behind the scenes. Sometimes people say they're nosy, but they're not nosy, they're just inquisitive. They want to know what's going on, and not everybody has written a book. Most people haven't written a book. So you writing a book is interesting and amazing to them. Sharing screenshots of whenever FedEx was taking forever and a day to deliver my books, I would screenshot the shipping and say, okay guys, we're here now. And so it keeps people in the loop. And then a walkthrough video for each of the formats. So what that means in this case, a book format is either like spiral, hardcover, paperback, ebook, things like that. And so I would do walkthrough videos to show some of the differences in those, and such as like the binding or what it looks like to have the different options. And then of course, voting on the covers and using that to check statistics. So letting people know, hey, you can vote on the cover and let me know which one you prefer. Doing the TikTok trends, like I mentioned earlier, I'm doing the Daniel fast. Of course, I'm going to XYZ. My book launch party, then cooking demonstrations with different organizations, behind the scenes of picking the recipes. So this looked like me doing an over-the-shoulder camera and just really just like 5 to 10 seconds of me scrolling through as I was working. or even a time-lapse video was one that I included as well, so people could see the process of me actually cooking the rest, or picking the recipes and cooking them as well, which is what I was doing over here. And then packaging those orders. So as I was making those cards and laminating them, things like that, letting people know that that's what was happening, preparing the packages for the cookbook, and then book unboxings on Reels and TikToks, as well as long form videos like on YouTube. So long form videos. So here we have my book unboxing, and I was able to share what that looks like in terms of what the book looked like once I got the proof, what the binding was. I let people help vote on if I should do black or white coil on the spiral. And then also talked about the type of paper that was included. I talked about shipping timelines and just being very transparent in the process so people knew what was going on, whether they had purchased the book or not. And even people who were not my ideal reader, people who had not heard of the Daniel Fast before, people who were not interested in cutting out meats or other quote unquote choice foods like from the Bible, so other like really rich foods, meats or sweets, they still purchased because they saw the process and they were excited to be a part of the process. And then the center picture is from my cook plus book launch party, which we'll get into a little deeper in a couple slides. And for this, I had a split screen, and I'll show you what software that I used as well during the software section of this case study. And so I used two screens so that way people could see my face, but also could see my hands when I was actually prepping. So that way we got our little in-home video studio because people like to see what's going on. And then using storytelling. So while I was cooking, like I told you at the beginning, I told you the valley that I was in during the time period where this cookbook was coming out, where I was writing it. I told that story of job loss, of the baby's potential heart condition, the baby's potential stomach situation, and I told that while I was cooking, and so that kept people engaged as well. Okay, so here, I wanted to show a series of different lives that I did to show that this was for YouTube. So I posted on all the platforms, but the cover photos let the person know, okay, these kind of look alike. These are things that go together. So this was a cooking class, this was the cookbook, the book launch party, and then this was just a general overview of the book, and then this was a preview. So before the finalized version, I did a preview. And so, for example, this is what it would look like if someone were to go look at it on YouTube. And so live streaming to multiple platforms, there's software that you can do that at the same time, so you're not having to do that individually. And making it a series of topics was helpful because then people were like, oh, I remember she talked about this before. This is going to be a series of topics that I'm doing here for the case study as well, because it helps people to digest and to process information. And then once the book was available, I updated the links on these descriptions because keeping in mind this was a preview, so the book was not quite available yet to purchase. So going back and updating those links as well to maximize sales. And then anytime I knew I was going to go live ahead of time, I would create an event and announce it via social media and email. That did not always happen. So sometimes I would go live and then update the flyer or the cover photo or the thumbnail and let people know, hey, I went live. Here's a replay. Okay, so this is a tip that I want to share because authors come to me and they say, well, I can't start my pre-sale because I don't have my book. That doesn't matter. And when I say this, I don't mean this in a scammy way. I mean that you don't have to have your physical copy of your book in your hand to be able to open your pre-sale. There is a timeline that you want to do it by, which in the first section we talked about that book launch timeline. So if you missed that part, go back and watch that and use that free guide that I sent you or that I linked. But you don't have to have your book in hand to do your launch party. I didn't get my physical copy of the book until January 2nd. And then I did my launch party December 28th. And so here's an example of a post of what you can do by sharing your formatting, sharing what's going on, and letting people know, like, this book is not done. But when it's done, you can buy it here. Or you can buy it now, and then I'll send it to you when it is done. So just being very honest and transparent so people know the process. And if you're posting consistently, people know that they can trust you because you've been posting consistently. You've built that trust factor. So here's some stats that I had from posting on social media, and so this one is on Facebook. And so during the time period, my pre-sale opened Black Friday weekend. So November 25th through February 16th was when I closed pre-sales. And so this was an increase of over 4,500,000 accounts reach. So that was my reach. And then 1.3 K interactions. So those might be comments, shares, likes, things like that. 46 links to click. And if you know anything about Facebook, this was on the business page, not my personal page. It's really hard to get people to engage with your business page. And so I was pretty proud of myself for this, for getting these stats. And then 1,300 minutes viewed from all of my different videos. And so that was over 100% increase. And mind you, the time before this, I was coming off of maternity leave and dealing with job stress. And so this was really like a re-engaging my page, or rejuvenating my page. I'll say that. And then over on Instagram, so there I had, which I was not focusing on as heavily. And so I had 6.1K reach over there, which was still over 200% increase. And then 1.4K interactions, 19 link clicks, which is also commendable because we know on Instagram it is very hard to get people to click your link. And so a deeper dive looking at TikTok. So 44,000 increase in reach, and then 800 profile views. And my TikTok at that point, before I started doing Daniel Fast stuff, I really only had probably less than 20 videos because I wasn't really focusing on TikTok. And so one of the good things about TikTok is that they don't say, okay, you only have 20 followers. We're only going to show your stuff to these 20 followers. They're good about pushing out your stuff to more people. And so the video that I mentioned to you of, I'm doing the Daniel Fast, of course I blah, blah, blah. That one at this point is over 50,000 views. And then another video I did got 40,000 views as well. Okay, then for YouTube, I got 2,500 views, 41 watch hours during this time period, and then 21 new subscribers. Okay, so another client spotlight. This is Ronnie B. Jackson Jr., and his book, Push Past Impact, was something that helps people to generally, more specifically guys, helps guys to be able to push through adversities, pass on nuggets of information to their sphere of influence so they can impact folks that are around them. And so he did $1,000 in pre-sales on his first book, and he had two options. He did the book bundle, as well as had autographed copies of the book with the digital copy as well. And his bundle included a custom ballpoint pen, as well as a motivational digital download because that fit with his audience, and then an invite to a book release event. All right, so now we're going to dig a little deeper into the cookbook party. And so this was my official book launch for the cookbook. And got my party hat over here. And so this was something that was 3 years to the day after my previous book, the most recent book before this one came out, that is tied to the book as well. So this came out 3 years after my devotional. And so the reason why I did a cookbook birthday launch party is because people really love celebrating you on your birthday. And so what better way to do it than to have your book release? And so I did it previously with the devotional. It worked well. People liked it. And it just made sense. And so it was something where I could combine both businesses, like I've been talking about before, to have that trend of showing how I'm using the book launch process. And then I could capture the essence of the book, because at this point I didn't have the actual book. I didn't get the copy till January 2nd. This was December 28th. And so it was a way that I could still do something to show my audience the essence of the book without having the book. And so in addition, I also had a cooking class where the people who purchased the bundle, they cooked a recipe from the book with me as well. And so, as I mentioned before, I was telling the testimony of everything that had happened to me with my job, things that had happened with my son, which didn't mention before, but he's totally fine. He just turned a year old, and so praise God for that. But totally fine, no heart defect, and the thing that was in his intestine, or the thing that was in the umbilical cord, was actually his appendix, and so they just took it out. So he had to have surgery when he was 2 days old, and was in the NICU for about 5 days, and then after that he's He's fine eating everything in sight. And so keeping people engaged in the party. At that point, I'm cooking, I'm telling the story, I'm telling people about the cookbook. And so it was just a really good time. And also included giveaways that got increasingly better as the party went on. So that way they were incentivized to stay. And if you want to check out that party, go ahead and scan that QR code there to be able to see how it went. And other steps that I took leading up to the launch party to prepare for it was I created a Facebook event, and that's something where you can invite people to come to the event on Facebook. It'll send them a notification. And I had people once. I hosted it on Zoom, but I did stream to different platforms. So I was able to. No, I'm sorry. No, I didn't stream to platforms. I hosted it on Zoom, and then I streamed to just Facebook, and then I reposted it onto YouTube. And so I advertised through email and social media, static posts, meaning like picture posts. I had to set up my kitchen and make it look really nice in that little corner with the background because I didn't have the book to put in the background. And so I put up foods that would be things that people might eat on the Daniel Fast. And then I used multi-streaming software to be able to stream to multiple platforms. Then the day of the cookbook launch party, I had 30 attendees that stayed on throughout. Of course, people came on and off, but it was no less than 30 at a time, and more on the replay. And then it was 153 minutes of watch time on my Facebook, 73 interactions on Facebook. And like I said before, I didn't have a copy of the book, but I was still able to hold people's attention. And at this point, the digital version was not on the website. So the only place I was sending people, not on KDP, I'm sorry. The only place I was sending people to purchase was my website to buy the physical copy. In this section, I'm going to talk about how I use email marketing to work like I'm a larger company when it's really just me and my assistant. And how you can too. So this is a part of my profitable publishing Pentagon that I've mentioned in the previous parts of this case study. If you haven't watched those parts, go ahead and check that out. And it's a way to connect with your audience, to do one-on-one correspondence by visiting their inbox on a regular basis to gain trust and connection. And so with email marketing, during the process of my pre-sale from November 25th through February 16th, I was able to increase my email subscribers by 334 new subscribers. And that's on average about 122 a month. And so during that time period, I sent out 38 emails, and all 38 of those emails didn't go to every single person on the list. I have a list that's what's called segmented, meaning that there's different portions of my list based upon who signed up for what. And then also, I didn't have to manually send all these emails. They were automated for the most part, so that once I set it up, then things would happen so that my system would know when to send it out. And some of them were one-off emails, so they could be notifications about going live, replays of lives. It could be the interest list, like, okay, you signed up to get notified about the book, go ahead and purchase it now. And then shipping updates for the whole saga with FedEx, which if you haven't seen the previous portions, go ahead and check those out and see what happened there. And then features with churches or organizations that I did cooking demonstrations with. Other emails were sequences, and they were things like, okay, well, you purchased the ebook version. Here's your delivery of the ebook. And then maybe a follow-up email that was automated that was like, okay, well, you got the ebook. Did you check it out? Can you leave a review? And then, of course, when they purchased the bundle or the book, I included information about their shipping as well. So from this, my overall email audience for the Chef Ash the Chef business, for the cookbook, is a food and faith-based audience. So they've come to me based upon either food topics or faith and food through the Daniel Fast, or other general food topics. And then leading up to the pre-sale, I would email them 2 to 4 times a month, depending on the month. Of course, some gaps there, but over the past 7 years, whenever they've signed up on my list, they've been consistently getting emails from me. And so I might share things like general wins, recipes, food tips, things like that. How to help their kids not eat up all their food, different things that they're interested in. And so in order to grow my list, I also use lead magnets for social media, meaning that I would post free items that people can sign up for on social media to be able to get on my list. And I'll show you what that means. And so here's an example of a lead magnet. And so it's for people who are doing the Daniel Fast. And I asked them, okay, you're not sure what you want, what you can eat during the fast, and you need scriptures to stay encouraged, then go ahead and sign up here, and then I'll send it to you. And so this is what's called a lead magnet, meaning that they sign up here, they opt in, giving me permission to email them, and then my system will automatically send the email to them and with the free thing. And so for this one, during that time period, that November 25th through February 16th, these are the results from that. So 134 people signed up for this. I'm sorry, 134 people went to this page, 44 signed up, so that's the percentage. And so that increased my list by 44 people by offering this free thing. And it was auto delivered, so I didn't have to send this out 44 times. It just sent out to them once they signed up for it. Another free item that I had was to offer a week of recipes for the Daniel Fast, and that was something that people enjoyed as well. Now, here's a behind the scenes look of the software that I use for tracking the emails. And so this was something that I was able to use to analyze the launch for email purposes, and it shows the most active days and times that people opened emails or that they clicked on something. And you will see that it says like 17,000 emails were sent. However, they're multiplying the people that were on the list times the number of emails that were sent. So this is like the individual amount of emails. I didn't send 17,000 emails that I wrote at a time. It sends to people in mass who have agreed to be on my list. Another strategy that I use to grow my email list and also sell the cookbook is to have a plan on the YouVersion Bible app. And so this was set up in January 2023, and it's a 6-day plan. And the last day on the plan is a call to action to ask people to get more recipes from me and to stay connected. And so through that, once they sign up for that, then they get a welcome email, and they're also informed about a cookbook. And so it's something that I lead them to the cookbook and I lead them to the devotional. And this is the information for that page that people are led to on that 5th day or that 6th day is that and 620 visitors during this time period went to that page. This many people signed up, and that's the percentage. And so it says no revenue because I didn't have anything for them to buy in this sign up. It was just sign up to the email list so that way I later can ask you to buy things. Okay, so here's a tip. Create an interest list for your book to begin your pre-sales. Now, before I had completed my book, I said, okay, I want to make sure I'm capturing people's information who are interested in the cookbook. And so this is a 7-day view. So in that 7-day period, whenever I took the screenshot, 55 people had visited the page and a little under half had signed up. And so at that point I had, during the time period, so the November to February, I had 32 people sign up saying they were interested in the cookbook. Now, this is the page that they went to, and there was more towards the bottom, but this is the page they went to let people know, hey, I have something coming out, and I sent them email updates of what was happening, the process, and things of that sort, so that way when the book became available, people were able to purchase. And within 3 hours of me notifying people that the book was available for pre-sale, somebody had already made a purchase from this email list. And so a lot of times we think, oh, well, social media is the hot thing and like everybody's on social media, and they are, but at the same time, email is still very effective. There's a reason that billion-dollar companies are still using email to be in your inbox, to send you coupons and ask you things all throughout the day and send you stuff. So definitely if you are interested in email, then check out my free email for authors class. If you're new to it and you're not exactly sure how to get started, or if you need done for you options, then we offer those as well for authors. And so signing up to this list or having people sign up to this list makes it so that I can market to them in the future, whether it's for another cookbook or something else they might be interested in. And they also, of course, have the option to unsubscribe when they no longer want to be a part of the email list as well. And then my system will automatically unsubscribe them. And so I also would share things like live streams, like, hey, I went live, check out the replay, or I'm going live tomorrow. Would love to see you there. And for this group, I called them the cookbook crew. So now, this is one of my clients who we did a done for you marketing pre-sale for her, and we specifically focused on email marketing for her. And this is Erica Basura of That's Love Publishing, and her book that we worked on was Little Miss Goes to Surgery, and she was able to do $1,500 in book bundles. And the strategies we used were email marketing, social media marketing, and speaking gigs such as in person and podcasts. In this section, we're going to talk about collaborations and partnerships, and this is one of my favorites. So many times authors are unsure of where to find their audience or who to get to buy their book. And when you're focusing on collaborations, you already have people who are interested in your topic, and you don't have to try to chase them and find them because they'll all be in one spot. So this is from my Profitable Publishing Pentagon, and this is a strategy that I use with clients to be able to help them get paid to publish and have successful four-figure book launches. And so partnerships and collaborations are where you find out where your people are already hanging out, connect with them, and then request things like book orders or being able to come and speak. And so in my case, I used the Facebook group method for this. And so there were 3 different groups that I was a moderator for. One of them was a group that I own, and then the other 2 were groups that I have been in for 1 year for one, and then 2 years for the other. And so each of those groups had different amounts of members. And so whenever I had things that I could offer, such as a recipe, or in this case, I was sharing, this is really just a picture of green beans. It's lemon pepper green beans, and it's a recipe that's in my cookbook. And in this one, 471 people liked this picture. This group, of course, has a ton of people in it. This one has over 100,000 people in it. But it's a way for me to build authority and then ask them to go ahead and order a copy of the book. And with that, I did the free ebook version on Amazon for them, meaning that people could order it on Amazon, and I let them know, hey, it's available. Go ahead and order it during these 5 days. I also did the PDF version on my website where they could order it before it was the free version on Amazon, and so the printable PDF version. And in order to make it even more enticing, I gave coupon codes that I created from my website so that way they could get it 50% off. And so I did that because the book, the PDF version, I already was getting that as a part of publishing. You get a PDF version. And so offering it for sale for people who didn't want a physical copy was kind of a no-brainer. And so it was something where it just made sense for me to be able to provide that for people. And that's something that I could generate income from. I was able to make a little under $400 in 48 hours from that. And then almost $600 over the course of 3 weeks with that. So each group had a different coupon code, so that way I could keep track of who was purchasing what. And then another strategy that I use for partnerships and collaboration is to reach out for bulk book orders. And so during the time period where I was waiting for my books to arrive, I researched on Facebook and looked for churches that were doing the Daniel Fast. And with that, I found a few options. And so they had posted different things. I communicated with them on those posts and then also provided value. So maybe I gave them an example of me doing a speaking gig with another church, a cooking demonstration with another church, and mentioned I'd love to connect with whoever is the point person so that I can potentially come speak with your church virtually. And so through that, I pitched to 12 different churches, and 2 of them said yes. And so through that process, I started reaching out on Monday, followed up on Tuesday, Wednesday, and had gotten paid by Thursday from one of the churches. And so it's not something that has to take forever and a day, but you do have to be strategic and make sure that you have your stuff ready to go and you're organized. And so I kept track of it using a tracking sheet that I use and provide to clients, my done for you clients, or you can order it from my shop. And so it helps to make sure that you're following up with people as well as keeping everybody's communication in line and using templates that I've created as well. From the free group, from the Facebook groups, the free ebook option that I talked about previously on Amazon KDP, that helped it to get to that bestseller status on Amazon for faith and spirituality, vegan, eating, Christian faith, and then diabetes and sugar-free cooking. And over a 5-day period, there were 375 free downloads on Amazon of the book. And even after that, it still was able to stay on those bestseller status lists for a few weeks after, because it had such a good push. And so it was something, along with the keywords and categories that I chose, to make sure that it would stand out. So that was very important for me to partner with those groups, because they already had my ideal reader in mind. They, of course, had different price points because there were people from all over the world. However, it was something where I was able to tap into the audience that was already there. I had built a relationship with the owner, and then people knew who I was in the group, because I had been posting consistently during that time period. And then, of course, using that buy for free button tip instead of read for free, that I shared earlier, was very critical and key for getting those downloads to count. All right, so another client spotlight is Tremaine Perry Knights of Amazingly Published, and her pre-sale helped her to not only make sales on her site, but also to increase sales on Amazon and Ingram Spark. And so she was able to do $500 in pre-orders, and those are from book bundles, as well as an additional $200 in Amazon and Ingram Spark sales. And so often people might think that, okay, well, if I sell on my website, then I won't get any sales on Amazon. And actually, if you're strategic and if you use the strategies that I've outlined, then you're able to actually do that and get sales on both. And so her strategies that she used is podcasting and social media posting for Facebook groups as well, with her ideal audience. All right, we are at the end of the case study, and I'm going to be sharing the results and lessons learned, as well as the software that I use to help make this almost 10K pre-sale happen. So let's refresh on the goals. These are ones that I shared in the first section of this case study. And so just as a refresher, my goals for this were to complete my first offset print order, meaning not using Amazon KDP to be able to print books, but to print them in bulk, to order 600 copies of my book. And so that cost was going to be $3,300. And that's because some of them had a situation, which I'll tell you about in a little bit. I ended up ordering less than 600, but we'll talk about it. And then I wanted to be able to use the book launch for a case study for Shep Publishing House, and here we are. So check that one, mission accomplished. And then collaborating with organizations and churches as well. And then to prove to myself that I still got it after having a baby, job loss, and just having an emotional time. And so generating a buzz was also a goal of mine, coming off of maternity leave, and generating leads, as well as generating additional revenue on top of that bulk print order. So the results are in, and from a monetary standpoint on the different sites, these are the results that I had for the cookbook pre-sale. So on Amazon KDP, I sold $3,522 there. That includes sales from the devotional and the cookbook, and I'll explain why I included them together. And then my website sales, I had a little over $3,800. And then speaking gigs and cooking demonstrations, that was a little over $2,300. And so the total for that was $9,600 and almost $9,700. And so after not having done a book launch for myself in 3 years, I've done it for clients since then, but not having done it for 3 years for myself after having a baby, battling, avoiding a repeat C-section, having a high-risk pregnancy, this just felt really good to be able to know, like, okay, girl, you still got it. So let's look deeper at the stats. So strategies that I used that I've mentioned in the previous portions of this case study is doing weekly live streams on multiple pages, and I'll show you the sites that I use for that. And then being able to re-engage my audience after a break, having that maternity leave break, and just being in a valley of having job loss and things like that. And using short form and long form social media content, so adding some variety in there on multiple platforms. Having a book launch party, using my testimony to do storytelling to keep people engaged, and then creating a book series on Amazon. So if you have more than one book that is similar, you can actually do something that ties them together on Amazon KDP, creating a series. So that way it is more easy for people to refer, or it's more easy for Amazon to refer your readers from one book to the other. And then the free Kindle download 5-day option. And if you are not familiar with that, then go ahead and make sure you watch the previous video in this case study. So the Amazon stats, I mentioned that I would explain why I chose to include the devotional and the cookbook. And because both of the books are heavily tied together and because they were referred back and forth, meaning that I have in each book, I have a page referring someone to the other book. And because they're on the same topic, I chose to include them both together. So during that time period, that November 25th through February 16th timeline, I received over 11,000 page reads from both books. And notice down here, this is a screenshot from my Amazon KDP account for page reads. Notice the difference. So the devotional is a little over 100 pages, and then the cookbook is a little over 200 pages. And this first one has been out for 3 years. This one just came out as a part of this pre-sale. And this is just the ebook version. So notice, even in that short time period, they're still pretty close for a book that's relatively new. So I'm really excited to see what further results I'll have for the cookbook as time passes. There were 973 orders, so that includes those free digital downloads, which because they clicked the buy now for free, it counts it as an order. And there were no print book orders because at this time, and even to this day, the print book version for the cookbook is not on Amazon. I'm using Amazon Advantage to be able to add my premium paperback, premium hardcover, and spiral version onto Amazon for people to be able to purchase it that way. It looks the same to the customer, but I didn't use KDP for that. The ebook downloads, 375 of those were free downloads during that 5-day period. And then page reads total for the cookbook were a little over 4,800. Now, using Amazon KDP for the ebook was strategic and it was not for a monetary purpose. I wanted to use it for bestseller status, hot new release status, and being able to get reviews before the physical copy of the book was available. So from that, because the book was free when I was getting those 300, almost 400 downloads, the royalties from that was $86 for the people who either got it before or after the free period or didn't use that option. And so for me, that was fine because I wanted to make it as a placeholder for people to leave reviews. And so through that, the bestseller status that I achieved on the ebook is having #1 bestseller in vegan diets, faith and spirituality, Christian faith, and then hot new release status on vegan diets, faith and spirituality, and Christian faith. And these stats were some that fluctuated because they change every hour. However, within the first 3 weeks, they still were within those bestseller statuses. So it wasn't just like it's up for an hour and it's done. Now on the devotional, so for this one, the print version was on Amazon. And so this one got 535 copies sold on Amazon. The ebook version was 38 copies. Page reads were a little over 6,200. And then the royalties were a little over 3,400 for the devotional. Okay, so highlights. Going back to those goals. So for the sales on my website, I was able to cover the print cost of the offset book order. It was $3,300 and I made $3,800. So that was beautiful because that means I got paid to publish as a self-published author. During this timeline, I also was featured in an article in Yahoo Finance that got syndicated to MSN, AOL, Go Banking Rates, and one other site. And it was about grocery shopping for big families. And so that was another thing I could share to position myself and show authority in the space of food. And then a cool highlight was that I was able to get my first sale on TikTok. After doing that, I'm doing the Daniel Fast. Of course I'm blah, 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 that video. And so the reason why that's even more exciting is because I didn't have my TikTok shop set up. And so someone had to literally leave TikTok to go to my site to go purchase the book. And so that was pretty cool. Okay, more highlights. That Bible plan that I mentioned before that I had set up a year before the book came out, hit 10,000 subscribers for the Daniel Fast Jumpstart on the Bible app. And then overall, I reached 5,000 books sold from all of my books since becoming an author a little over 3 years ago. And then, as mentioned before, those bestseller statuses from the ebook is always fun to have as well. Now, on the agency side for Shut Publishing House, I was able to share ideas with my audience of what they could do to publish their books, which is always a great way. Maybe you're new to me, but I am a teacher at heart. I have an education background and also am coming out of the education space to educate authors. And so, as a self publishing coach and book marketing strategist, it's always great for me to be able to share what I'm doing to be able to help others do the same thing. And so one of the things that I was able to do is to create more content. And this video here that you can scan the QR code using your smartphone to take a look at is showing how overthinking almost cost me $360 in 48 hours and then $580 in 14 days. And that's when I was debating whether or not to put up the PDF version of the cookbook on my site. While I was waiting for the physical copies of the books to arrive. And I'm glad that I did because, as shown, those are the stats that I did within that short timeline. Tip for you, find ways to wow your customers. And it doesn't have to be expensive to have an impact. So here's an example from my cookbook that I've mentioned in this case study. And here we have meal plans. And so most cookbooks don't have meal plans, first off. Second of all, this one is a multi-part meal plan, meaning that if you're somebody who wants to have everything filled in, then you can just use this one and use the grocery shopping list on the next page. Or if you're someone who doesn't like to be locked in, then you can use this one and you're able to fill in those other spaces with any of the over 50 recipes from the cookbook. And so this was strategic for me to be able to include this as a feature that differentiated my book from other cookbooks because most of them don't have things like that. All right, here's another client spotlight with Vanity Hill Scott. She is an author of multiple children's books that focus on faith and family, and she did an offset bulk book order for board books, and she was able to put money towards that from her pre-sale by making $600 in pre-sales through social media marketing and collaborations. In this section, we're going to talk about the vendors that I used for my cookbook launch. And so we have Ecamm, which is what I use to multi-stream, and that means that I can go live to YouTube, my Facebook business pages, both pages at the same time, my personal Facebook page. You can do LinkedIn. They have tons of streaming platforms that are on there that you can connect to go live from, and it makes it so that you're able to schedule them out as well. And then Vistaprint I use to order stickers, insert cards, and thank you cards. Kartra, this is my email platform to send out emails, create sales pages, meaning where the pre-sale was hosted for people to buy. I can use analytics from my email that you saw some screenshots for in the section where we talk about email marketing. Coupon codes for the books is also, those are all hosted on Kartra, my book bonus website, the printable PDF version. Pretty much it's a one-stop shop. And so I could have also hosted, you can do webinars on there. They have a lot of resources. And then social media, that's where I hosted those short and long form video content. Meta Business Suite, you can schedule posts and tracking analytics. That's where I was tracking my Facebook and Instagram analytics. And then for shipping packages, Shippo and Pirate Ship were the two sites that I used. Then for graphics, I used Canva, and I also did some light video editing in there. For contractors and my virtual assistant, I used Upwork to connect with them. For Fiverr, I did use that for contractors as well for one-off smaller jobs. And then for my offset printer, that is who I ordered the books from. I don't share my actual offset printer. I reserve that for myself and my clients. However, I do offer recommendations for other options as well if you're interested in those. And so I was able to order hardcover, premium paperback, and spiral versions on glossy coated paper to have them for the type of book that I wanted. Then Amazon, I ordered shipping boxes and mailers, meaning things to mail my books in, label paper, as well to be able to print out the labels, and then sticky flags, my cross paper clips, things like that. Then Amazon KDP, I uploaded the Kindle version and the free download promotion on there as well. Staples for packing tape, permanent markers, sticky brand for those faith-based waterproof stickers, and then I already had my MacBook and a printer. All right, so here we have my youngest helping out with orders. And so this next section is going to talk about things that are important to focus on or important things to remember, think about during your pre-sale process. And so keeping your audience informed and engaged is huge. So making them aware, letting them know that this is what's happening. And during my pre-sale process, my books were staying stagnant in the FedEx warehouse overseas, and I was not getting any updates for dates. They would be scanned, but it's just like we're scanned and chilling out right here. And so keeping my audience in the loop is what helped them to not request refunds because they were aware of what was going on. They knew where the books were. They knew that I wasn't scamming them because I was keeping them in the loop. And so even though I was panicking because I'm like, I want to get these books to people, they were fine. And so someone even said, don't even worry about it. It's fine. Like, we get it. And because they had already had the digital copy of the cookbook, because I sent it to them when they ordered, they also could already use it. So it wasn't like they weren't without the item. So if you can include that, that's a great strategy. And that was helpful for them because then they could already start cooking the recipes if they started their Daniel Fast before the book got to them. So lessons learned. Though this was my third pre-sale, there were things that I did differently, and things that I won't do again, or things that I know I should do now. And so giving grace to myself. I tend to be somebody who's a high achiever, and one of my friends had to remind me that, girl, you birthed a baby and a cookbook in the same year, and that's a lot. And so there were times where I was like stressed about certain things and had to really stop myself and think, okay, it'll get done. Like, and if we need help, we'll get the help. And I do have an assistant, and at the time of this, I had two virtual assistants. One was helping with design, the other one's helping with a lot of other things. And so just budgeting an additional time for delays. So the unexpected shipping delay that took an extra week for the books to get to me, or there was an issue with the ebook and it wasn't processing properly when uploading it to Amazon, and it was an error that I've never seen before, even though I've uploaded tons of ebooks to Amazon. And then taking into account things like Chinese New Year approaching, and so just giving yourself extra buffers of time are always helpful. And then I made the assumption that my proof would take as long to get here as the expedited order of books, which was about 100 books, 150 books. And that was not very smart. However, it worked out and it was okay. And then the TikTok reel with the trend, that brought in a lot of engagement to my page. And when I was doing the trend, I was like, oh, this trend's already over. I don't even know if I should do it. And I'm glad that I did, because at this point to date, that trend has gotten 50,000, or that video has gotten 50,000 views. And I even reposted the video, and that one's up to 20,000 views. And so it's something where if you think the trend's over, just try the trend, because worst case scenario, you can just hide the video. So this is the video I'm talking about. And this was within the first few days that it got 11,000 views and almost 900 likes. And so my regret from this is not having my TikTok shop available and open before I posted this video, because on TikTok shop at the time of this recording, on TikTok, you can't go back and edit your videos. So I can't go back and link my book to this video because they don't allow that. And so had I done that, I don't even know how many books would have been sold, but it was a missed opportunity. However, because I didn't have the books available, because you have to have them essentially when you are putting it on TikTok shop, because your shipping time is 2 business days. So I couldn't have put it on there anyway, but had I waited until I got the books, the trend could have been over. So, which it likely would have been over with the timeline. So it's okay, but it's just learning for the future. And then another thing is writing down the hashtags that I use and the keywords that I use in the video. So you can't pull like if you're using SEO on social media where you put words on the screen, and sometimes people put them off to the side, you can't go look at those again. So on videos that did well, I didn't always have a tracking of what was the SEO keywords on them. Additional lessons learned is that I should have set up my abandoned cart emails ahead of time. I totally forgot about those, and those are emails that somebody has clicked on the sales page, but they haven't ordered. So encouraging them to order, maybe giving them a coupon code, things like that. So once I realized that, I turned them on. I went ahead and scheduled that out. And then I wish I would have set up more things ahead of time. So that way I would be able to focus more on the launch. So such as my text messaging system. I just gave up on it because it was too complicated, the one that I was going to use. And then I wish I would have set up my A+ content ahead of time. I did outsource it, so that was helpful. And then revamping my A+ content for the devotional. I wish I would have done that ahead of time too. Now, points for you to remember, or points for you to consider had you not thought about them. Think about international workers. If you're going to be using them, if you're going to be using international workers, think about their time zones. So my virtual assistant, she's halfway across the world. So when it's nighttime here, it's daytime there. And so that can cause a little bit of a delay that I hadn't always accounted for. And things always take longer than you expect. And so give additional time for that, whatever the thing is. Create buffers, add extra time. Check, and recheck your files again. Because like I said, there was an issue with Amazon and uploading my files, which that issue had never happened before. And I've worked with dozens of books at this point. And then plan for those issues. Originally, I had ordered 600 copies of the cookbooks, but there was an issue with the printer where the thing that does the spiral wasn't all the way aligned. So 150 of the spiral cookbooks were not able to be spiraled. And so thankfully, I hadn't already promised those to anybody as a part of the pre-sale. I had ordered enough extra spiral, so I still had extra, so it was fine. And then my printer will just credit me for the next order. So, and so that was not, I'm sorry, she refunded me for that portion, so I didn't have to pay that portion. And then testing out your shipping. So this is something I do and I recommend, to test out your shipping options to make sure that you have the right weight. So you're getting a postal scale or taking it to the post office is always a great idea. Okay, so our last tip is not to forget to update your previous books to recommend new books or add new ways to connect. So this is from the cookbook. This is a screenshot of a page. I've also included this page or similar page to this in the devotional. So that way people are able to see, okay, well, now there's a cookbook. And then if they're in the cookbook, oh, there's a devotional. And then also I've linked them to the Bible plan so that way they can check that out as well if they need a free resource to help them. So these are some of the success stories that I have shared with you during this case study of clients who have done pre-sales and had wonderful success of either making money from their pre-sales, making 4 figures from their pre-sales, covering costs for bulk print orders, and just letting you know that if it's possible for them, then it's possible for you. And so if you're interested in learning how to get paid to publish, I want to introduce you to my Get Paid to Publish system. And so with this, it's something that will help you to know exactly what you need to post, exactly what you need to say, the emails you need to send, how your website should look, and all of those things so that you can have a successful pre-sale. And so what's included is the admission to the Get Paid to Publish 30-day group coaching. And so that's working with me in a group setting to be able to structure your pre-sale, to make sure that you are getting exactly what you need to be able to make it so that you can sell your books as well as reach the audience that you want to reach. And then I've also included my pre-sale plus book bundle guide. And that's something that I've created as a process of not only doing my own pre-sales, but working with dozens of clients to help them with their pre-sales. And it helps you to really map out your timelines, to know what to include in your bundles, how to price your bundles, so that way you're optimizing sales and profit. And then I've also included the social media post templates that you can use to make it so easy for you to post on social media, because at times it can be overwhelming to think about, what am I supposed to post? What should I say? What will my graphics look like? Things of that sort. And then also, if you are someone who's going to send out emails, which I highly recommend because it's effective, I've included email templates for your pre-sale that you can use that are just plug and play, meaning that you would add information about your books to be able to sell through email like a professional. Additionally, I have included an audio and video replay of an intensive that I've done on pre-sales, so that way you can see examples from others who have done this as well. Then a few bonuses for you. I'm going to include website wording, so that way you are very clear to your audience and let them know, okay, this is when your book is going to come out, this is what's included, and this will cut down on questions for your pre-sale and make it so that people are able to buy from you with ease. And then one bonus as well that I'm adding is just exclusive for the first 5 people that sign up. I'm adding 30-minute sessions with me one-on-one to set up your pre-sale. So that way, if there's questions that you don't want to ask in the group setting, or if you just feel like you need a little extra guidance, then you can work with me personally to create your pre-sale. All of this is included for $797. And if you are interested, then you can go ahead and scan that code or check out the link in the description. And one thing I want to remind you of, or maybe make you aware of, is that if you were a done for you client, something like this for a 3-month launch, I charge $997. $99.97. I charge $99.97 for this. So you're able to get that without having to pay that. You're doing it with me instead of having it done for you. So you're getting to learn the process, which is something you can use for future pre-sales as well. Now, exclusive to this as well, I'm offering a 48-hour bonus. 48-hour discount. And this will be $200 off with the code presale. And so on that same page, go ahead and scan that link. And just as a thank you for sticking out with me and checking out this case study, I wanted to offer it to you because it shows that you are serious about getting your pre-sales done or really interested in this. And so it's something where I know that it works for me. It's worked for me for 3 pre-sales. It's worked for dozens of my clients. And on average, clients that work with me make 4 figures from their pre-sales. And so if this is something that you're interested in, I want to go over the items that are included just once more so that way you can be knowledgeable about what you are able to check out when you join my Get Paid to Publish system. So this includes access to a 30-day session with me with other students who are working on their pre-sales, so in a group coaching setting. It includes the pre-sale and book bundle guide, which helps you to structure your pre-sale, including things like timelines, helping you to know how much to charge, and also what to include in your bundles. It includes social media post wording and templates, so that way you can just plug and play, and you won't have to stress about what to include on social media. As well, it also includes email templates to help you to be able to organize your emails and to know what to send and when to send it to your audience. And then additionally, an audio and video replay of a previous intensive that I've done, so that way you can see real live examples of people structuring their pre-sales. Plus, as a bonus, I'm going to include website wording templates for you, so that way you know exactly what to put on your sales page, so that people are aware of what's included in the pre-sale, and so they understand that this is a pre-sale and it's not something that they're going to get right away. And that will help cut down on stress and questions for you. And then, as mentioned before, as a fast action bonus, the first 5 people that sign up will get one-on-one sessions with me for 30 minutes to be able to structure their pre-sale. Now, if you're someone who is thinking, okay, well, I don't need the time together, I don't need that one-on-one session, but I would love to get those templates, then I have an option for you for that as well. And that one is $497 for you to be able to get each of the templates that are included. And if you scan that link, then you'll be able to access it on the same page also. Now, as a reminder, this is my Get Paid to Publish system, and it was created as a result of me creating pre-sales for myself as well as my clients with the things that they truly needed in order to have success with their pre-sales. And I will stick around to see if there are questions that I can answer, and if you have them, go ahead and drop them in the chat, and then I'll answer them in the order. If you've already added them, then I will scroll up and look at those too. Okay, let's see. Okay, so how do you decide what to include in your bundle? So that's a good question. When you're including things in your bundle, you want to make sure it's something where you are focusing on the customer. And so what is something that's going to really help them feel like this is a complete thing, or this is like a cohesive item? So for my pre-sale, for my cookbook, I included things that would help the person read the book or help them use the cookbook. And so as mentioned before in the section where the offer is, that I included a Sharpie, or I included a permanent marker, so that way they can write on the coded pages, because they're coded so that the person's sticky fingers or wet fingers don't smudge the writing. And so including something where they could write inside of it was important to me, because I know as I'm cooking, sometimes I need to take notes or adjust something and things like that. And then the other items that I included would be things that if I'm the ideal reader, what's something that's going to help me to take it over the top. So what's something I can include, either digital or print, that's going to make it so that they are able to just feel like, oh my gosh, they thought of everything. And so if you need more help with that, I do have a pre-sale guide that I can send the link for that gives you some more structure, more tips on that. Good question. All right, let's see. Okay, already answered that. Okay, is there a payment plan? There is a payment plan, and so if you scan, I'll go back one page. If you scan the link, then it's on the page as well, and there's an option for that. Okay, for the group coaching. Okay, hold on. So for the group coaching, how does that work? So for the group coaching, I have a platform that I use where you can send audios, you can send GIFs, you can send videos, you can send written words, and you can respond in whatever manner you'd like to. And then each week there's certain things that we would address and cover to make sure that your pre-sale is structured the way it needs to be. And I see someone else mention that they are not necessarily doing a pre-sale right now, and that's fine, but it's something you want to consider, because when you are writing that next book, or when you are writing your first book, it's a lot easier to already have that knowledge ahead of time than try to figure all of this out while you're doing the book publishing process. And as someone who I've done this during the process, it's a lot less work if you already know what needs to be done, as opposed to trying to figure out what needs to be done and then also trying to publish your book at the same time. So something to keep in mind, to just be ready so you don't have to get ready. All right, let me keep scrolling. Okay, I've already answered that. Okay. Answered that as well. You're welcome. God, this was helpful. Okay, so if there are not any other questions, then I thank you for your time, and I hope that you will sign on to get paid to publish with me. Have a good one.